is a war. It's happening now. It will decide the fate of humanity. The time to choose sides has come. We are the resistance. We are the info war. The scenes were something out of Dante's Inferno, and it's still ongoing. More than 10 miles of flame in downtown Kiev, the capital city of the Ukraine, the battleground between the Anglo-American New World Order and the collapsed former Soviet attempted world order. And you have the George Soros, CIA, globalist-funded groups, many of which have real beefs with the government, absolutely going wild, absolutely attacking and shooting police. They've stolen thousands of, quote, firearms from the military and police, calling for the country to join the EU. They're mad that the government a few months ago, there was also a vote in their parliament, did not enter the EU. Listen, I don't want them to join Russia or the EU. How about we have sovereign countries again that aren't dominated by corrupt kleptocratic empires? The bottom line here is just like the Syria civil war, it is the West quarterbacking and running this entire operation. And it is absolutely incredible. Under law, folks, when you start the preemptive war, you're the bad guy. AKA Hitler, AKA Mussolini, AKA so many other examples that we know of historically, like Napoleon. The list goes on and on. The British Redcoats coming to confiscate the guns and shooting people. This is the real issue that we're dealing with. And it is so frustrating to see neocon organizations and the so-called left in this country as well, calling them freedom fighters, ladies and gentlemen, when in most cities in the U.S., if you peacefully go out and demonstrate, you'll get arrested or beat up, and that's all wonderful. But when these people are throwing Molotov cocktails on police that have been very restrained in the last month of this and shooting them, and then the police fire back, and by the way, it's an elected government that's not even pro-Russia, I should add, but did not join the EU to be absolutely imploded. And now the EU is calling for sanctions on Ukraine, just like they did on Serbia, to then further depress it and break it up and break the country into multiple pieces. This is incredible balkanization. European Union told that they're going to hold emergency meetings of foreign ministers as leaders warn sanctions are likely following the latest clashes. That's right. Just like there'd be sanctions in Egypt if they didn't let the Muslim Brotherhood take over and then start crucifying the Christians and blowing up their churches. And again, it's not that I back the military junta in Egypt. It's a lot better than Al-Qaeda. And again, why is our government involved? Why are they backing it? Why do they start the war in Libya, start the war in Syria, and put people conservatively more than 10 times worse in, who then destabilize the whole region, pour out of Syria now into Iraq, retook Fallujah, and are killing the Iraqi military and U.S. advisors? I mean, this is a policy of chaos, and George Soros and Brzezinski and all these anti-Russian types are right at the middle of it, folks, starting wars on the steppes of Russia, just like Napoleon and Hitler, and it is wrong, 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 wrong. And the British Empire has been trying to bring down Russia for 300 years. They've been allied with them back and forth, World War I, you name it. But this is a total double cross. In 1917, putting the Bolsheviks in. We should apologize to the Russians. Do you know where the commies came from? Our government, look it up, 50,000 brigade level, multi-brigade. How many brigades is 50,000? That's a whole bunch. It's like 10 of them. Sent out of New York, communist, paramilitary, money out of London to overthrow Moscow, folks, and then kill tens of millions of people. Our criminal elite did that.
You are watching the best of the Alex Jones Show, weekdays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Watch live at Infowars.com/show or become a member of Infowarsnews.com and help us take resistance to the next level.
populations are rising up and burning down large parts of their cities, burning down government buildings, and then killing ethnic minorities as soon as the government's been removed. And in every case, whether it was Libya or Tunisia or Egypt or Syria or what we're seeing unfold in other parts of the world, it is the globalist, it is the Ford Foundation, Google, and others who later brag, and it comes out that they are the ones who are out there funding the organizations to start the rioting to begin with. And the big think tanks admit in the last few years, and we've covered it here on air, and even traveled to England to cover it at the very same hotel where Google met secretly with MI6 and others to plan the Arab Spring. The banksters are devaluing currencies worldwide. That only hurts you if you live in America or live in, say, England. But if you live in a place like Egypt and 55% of your disposable income that might be $600, $700 a year is food, and food prices double, what happens if 55% of your money in 2010 in Egypt, we can look up the numbers, this is one example, you're spending 55% of your money on food, and then suddenly over the next few years it doubles. Do the math, that's 110% of your money. You begin to starve, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the Egyptians. They're very skinny now. They weren't just a few years ago. They are starving. The globalists have actuaries on record. They know with these computer programs, war gamed, on record. They know when you're going to order at Amazon before you order it and already ship it, okay? I'm telling you about this for a long time now. It's mainstream news. Not because I'm smart. It's been in all the MIT papers for decades. But that was their holy grail, that they've attained it in the last decade. And now they can game everything. They know how to manipulate oil prices, food prices, you name it, to make a country blow up, and they know when it's going to blow up, so they show up a month before it's going to blow up, and they know how it's going to blow up with a pro-liberty, egalitarian awakening movement in Egypt that is going to put down the Muslim Brotherhood and even put down the government control and create a golden age in Egypt. There was a lot of stuff lining up for that with a lot of youth that had gotten into freedom and things. And the system said, we're not going to let that happen, just like they did in '53 in Iran when pro-America Mossadegh was in there. They put in the radical jihadis to overthrow him. Then they double-crossed them and put the Shah in. Just like they put al-Qaeda into Libya because they were helping Africa. Libya was building up all of Africa like a real IMF would do. And working with the West, and Gaddafi bought into all of it, was meeting with all the European presidents and had apologized for stuff and invested most of his money with big U.S. banks. They set him up, folks. He opened up everything, built big hotels, was giving money to all of Africa. He'd live in a tent. I'm not romanticizing Muammar Gaddafi, but compared to our leaders, he's the real deal. Self-made, ladies and gentlemen. And actually spent 99% of the dictator wealth on the people. Not allowed, ladies and gentlemen. Not allowed. They put al-Qaeda in there. They put burqas back on the women's heads. And they killed all the minority Muslims and the blacks in the country. On record, 40,000 blacks lined up and shot or chopped up with machetes by the al-Qaeda people out of Saudi Arabia who are extremely anti-black. That's why I never get why a lot of blacks are big Wahhabists and follow that particular part of Islam in those groups, because, man, I've read their writings on black people. It makes the Ku Klux Klan sound pro-black. You ought to go read it yourself if you want to. I'm not going to repeat it on air. But I guess I'm racist. I don't want to kill the black people. But anyways, the whole point here, ladies and gentlemen, is that that's what's going on in Kiev right now. And I saw on Fox News last night with Shepard Smith, when I got off the show in the afternoon, I knew there was fires going on for weeks. This river of flame, we found one from the air, but that's small. It was at nighttime. And it went for 10 miles with the buildings and the skyscrapers and just went on and on. Hundreds of feet of flame going for miles like a Dante's Inferno. We're trying to find it. The crew's doing a great job. We're digging around for it. And we can just go TiVo, Shepard Smith show from yesterday. They had it up on that big Jumbotron. And it was incredible where he was pointing it all out. And they're calling them protesters and freedom fighters in our news. And ladies and gentlemen, these people are shooting the police preemptively. They've been given weapons, obviously. And I'm a pro-Second Amendment guy. If they were overthrowing a communist government, I'd say hooray, hooray. If they were overthrowing an unelected government, I'd say good for you. They're not. It's an elected government that didn't vote to join the EU a month ago, and all hell broke loose. And the EU on record is to come in, take over your country, hand over all the infrastructure, and bankrupt it on record. I mean, who wants to join the EU? That's like joining a sinking ship. But it's all about taking down Russia. People go, well, good, we need to take down Russia. Folks, the globalists are taking us down with Agenda 21, our farms, our ranches, our businesses, our power plants. We don't want to be part of the criminal elements of Wall Street and the Bank of England and others that are wrecking all these different countries. This is very evil. This is economic warfare. And believe me, folks, if the police in this country are ordered to go out and confiscate guns, civil war like this times, let's not exaggerate, we're a lot bigger country, a lot bigger population. Let me be conservative. Civil war of this, I'd say 50 times this. Because by the way, people aren't just going to start burning trash cans and stuff. Patriots, libertarians, conservatives don't ever protest, you notice, because when they do, they protest like 1776. And it's not going to be pretty. And the globalists actually want to maneuver this. And this is what I want to explain to you today. What we're seeing in Kiev and what we see going on there and what we see happening there is a microcosm of how the globalists operate. They don't usually invade your country. They don't usually come in with an overwhelming force openly. The Bushes did that, and that was against main globalist policy, but the establishment let them do it as a test. They do it by fomenting opposition and overthrow groups and balkanization and destabilization programs. Then they take over that country and use it the next phase to exploit to the next country, try to infiltrate and overthrow it. That's how the globalists operate, through subversion. It's on record. And they have already created in the last 60 years through the different foundations, the Carnegie, the Ford Foundation, mainly on that case, teaching that the Southwest belongs to Mexico, teaching that whites are inherently racist in all the high schools, all the colleges. I went to college. I went to high school. I was taught that in Dallas. I was taught that in Austin in high school. I was taught that at community college, and so I didn't go to main college. Every class, it could be math, it could be U.S. history, it could be psychology. I was taking a bunch of courses to see what I liked. It was white people are bad, America's bad, the Southwest belongs to Mexico, and we're going to have a communist takeover, and we're going to take the guns, and all of you white people should be ashamed of yourselves. This was all coming out of white people's mouths. And when I wrote papers against it, they would give me Fs, and I would write misspelled as a test, screwed up ones, worshiping communism and stuff as a sick joke. I did it a few times. They would give me A+ and invite me for coffee afterwards. And I said, that's it, I'm out of here. I'm going to go do an Access TV show. The only place I can get on air, I'm going to fight these people. And now you see the universities, you see it everywhere. I mean, it is just incredible what is going on so that they can then have the riots start up whenever they want in this country. You don't just think they're going to come for the guns and then leave it at that and have a civil war over there. No, no, no. They're going to stage some race stuff and get the Southwest burning. And then it'll be, oh, there'll be sanctions on the U.S. if they don't let this become its own autonomous zone, where they put us into a North American Union, what Obama's going to Mexico right now to do. And then they always then have a super union with the old groups, the old countries, broken up into small little groups within it. So globalism is the opposite of unity and the opposite of sovereignty. It's totally exploitive, totally predatory. And so you watch. Ukraine will be much worse in a year than it is now. If they would have gone under the EU, it would have been much worse for them. And this is what the government of the Ukraine now gets because they didn't join the EU, the incredibly predatory EU. And when they voted a month ago, remember, to not join, I said, that's it, get ready for their cities to burn. On record, it's not hard. You don't join NATO, you don't join the EU, they're going to overthrow your country just like Serbia. In that case, they brought in radical Wahhabist Muslims out of Albania, had them blow up churches, shoot little kids on the street. The Serbs got mad, attacked them. I mean, I'm not taking sides for the Serb folks. I have no Slavic blood in me. I've never been to Serbia. I just studied real geopolitics and what actually happened under Bill Clinton. And they would have a guy with tuberculosis wanting into a food tent that had wire around it, and Time Magazine and Newsweek and all of them would show it, and CNN going, look at this starving man in a Serb concentration camp. It was all lies, folks. The Serbs in the UN zone numbers lost double to triple depending on which war in the 90s, and were always the ones being attacked. Just like when the Syrians fight back against the outside al-Qaeda invasion, oh, it's a horrible atrocity. And they brought in the al-Qaeda into the south, and they took a third of the country. Kosovo is a drug running around, and now they're still attacking up into the rest of the country. And this is how the globalists operate. And they bombed Belgrade and the rest of the country with depleted uranium. Why not give old Clinton 5 peace prizes for that? All because it was a sovereign country, and they broke it up, folks. After the fall of the Soviet Union, and you know, Tito had been dead a long time, all that, that whole place was getting along fine. The whole Balkans, where we get the term balkanization, the whole Balkans was getting along until the West came in and did that, just like the Middle East. It's on record that most of the ambassadors don't even know where the countries are they're being sent to, and brag about it, and can't speak any of the language, and it is very insulting to the people that are having these ambassadors sent to them. Usually you send an ambassador who's an American citizen but had family there and a culture there if you want to get anything done. Like if, you know, the U.S. ambassador to England should generally be an Anglophile and have family in England and, you know, have some background there and know about British culture or UK culture. And it's just an example. I mean, there's Obama's ambassador to Norway, knows nothing about Norway, and brags he knows nothing about Norway. But I know quite a bit about Ukraine. Really smart, great people who had it really hard in between Europe and those wars, and in between the old czars and then the Russians under communism. But this is a new empire of the EU and the globalists, teamed up with the Anglo-American establishment, coming in to take over and privatize everything and absolutely just drag these people through the mud. And there's problems with the government. There's corruption. There's all the standard stuff. They've been putting new governments in every couple of years over there. This government's just trying to be neutral. And it looked like on a lot of fronts was trying to be nice to the Russians and nice to the EU and just trying to have trade and saying, we'll just be on our own. No, thank you. The EU looks like a bad deal. And, of course, they activated Soros. And, I mean, Soros is like herpes or something. I mean, he just is the gift that keeps on giving. Do I need to say anything more about what's happening in the Ukraine, but that George Soros is on record right in the middle of it? What an uncool person. And look at what they did back in 2008 with the neocons. It's the same agenda. Starting a war with Russia in South Ossetia and Abkhazia in northern Georgia. We almost had a nuclear war right there. And our media said Russia had attacked Georgia. They had national news say that I was a collaborator because I came out and said that we attacked the Russians. Later, they had to admit that was the case. They ran a hoax, folks. They could start a war tomorrow with the Russian border territory. A demilitarized zone. They've got a bunch of those. And we'd have nuclear war, and we'd always be told the Russians did it. That's how big these hoaxes are. That's how evil this government is. It's not our government, ladies and gentlemen. It is criminal elements that are playing all countries off against each other because they can consolidate power during chaos. Because while the Catholic and Orthodox people are lined up killing each other and attacking each other, being manipulated, in Ukraine, the globalists sit back and laugh. Just like here, it'll be black or white versus Hispanic, or North versus South, or man versus woman, or gay versus straight. Why don't we all just agree on Bill of Rights, Constitution, due process, private property, right to defense, and be like, I'm for freedom, and you are a statist. See, people need to be in gangs. They need to be in clubs. They need to be in tribes. They need to be in packs. That's how we are. But it should be, I'm part of the invention pack. I'm part of the trailblazer pack. I'm part of the honorable pack. You know, in real business that's still in this country, the word gets out, oh, that's an honorable law firm, that's an honorable CPA, that's an honorable florist, that's an honorable repair guy, that's an honorable good painter. And you know what? They can charge more, and they get the business, and anyone with a brain works for them. And then all the losers just feed on the unwashed masses that don't know what they're doing. The most valuable thing in this world is being honorable. And as Dr. Paul Kirk Roberts has said many times, America in the last decade has lost its soft power. We've lost our soft power where people respected us so much that they would basically work with America, and that really helped our country. There's nothing wrong with having an empire of ideas, an empire of trade, an empire of goodwill, if it's consensual. Consensual collectivism is great, where we all agree on liberty, so we collectivize our will to make the world better. But it doesn't mean we collectivize and give up our will to join a collective. Oh, no, 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 no. See, collectivists are like the corporate Borg. And so as people that are individuals, we think, well, I won't work with anybody because I'm not a collectivist. That's not collectivism. That's teamwork, ladies and gentlemen. And the minute we figure out the difference between that and this robo-sapien humanoid garbage that is collectivism, this trendiness, this just accepting whatever the latest propaganda is, the minute we do that is the minute we begin to turn the tide.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.